Howdy YouTube, and welcome to this episode of the Gunman. So today we're going to be doing a tutorial video on how to prepare an original bumper cover. So obviously the bumper has already been removed from the car. The primer work has been done. Now it's up to me to get this thing prepped up and ready to go into the booth so I can spray it up. So this is what I've been doing these days. I've found that bumpers tend to get little bits of dirt and that caught up in between all the gaps that are not exposed, so the parts that you can't generally clean when you're cleaning your car. So in all there you usually get lots of dirt building up. Some are obviously worse than others. Some have got little bits of oil and grease and stuff on it. So these days I've just been using some water-based degreaser. As you saw, I had some orange degreaser in that spray bottle. Give it a good spray over the entire bumper, and then I've just been getting one of these little brushes and just getting it inside all those edges to do my best to clean most of it off. If there's a couple of little bits of dirt that you've missed, that's fine, you can get that with a rag later on. So yeah, I never used to actually do this prior to prep work. It's one of those things that there is more than one way to skin a cat, so I'm not saying this is the right way to do it. This is just the way I'm doing it these days, and I've found it probably to be the best. I mean, as I say in other videos, these methods are methods that I've personally refined myself over 20 years experience of spray painting. So yeah, as I say, if you want to do it a little bit different, that's fine. End results are all that really matters. Doesn't matter how you get there, it matters where you get to at the end. So as I say, start off by cleaning it down. I then ended up putting it out in the sun. If you've got a sunny day, why not? Use a bit of solar power to your advantage. And then I actually went over and prepped up the rest of the job. So this is an Audi A1 front bumper, and on this job here we had to spray a fender, and we also had to spray a blend on the door and a wheel as well. So yeah, while I was preparing the rest of it up, it was drip drying, and I obviously got the air blower onto the corners and the places where the water did actually build up, and yeah, dried it down before I do my dry sanding. And obviously now I've got the Orbital sander with a piece of 400 grit onto it, and I'm sanding down the primed areas. So as I said before, the primer work has already been done. I do have other videos that do go through primer work, so be sure to check them out after you've watched this if you do want to learn how to do primer work as well. So whenever you are doing any prep work, it's pretty important, if you are, especially if you're doing dry sanding, to wear some sort of, at the very least, a dust mask. But these days I prefer my half mask, so that's got charcoal filters and particle filters in it, so it's going to be filtering out all the nasty fumes and the dust as well. So I've found that the dust masks might get most of the particles out of your face, but it's not actually going to stop the fumes from coming in. So yeah, as I say, these days I've found a proper half mask is the way to go. At the end of the day, I do like spray painting. I enjoy the trade. I enjoy actually all aspects of it, from prep work to painting and masking and all of that. But I don't want it to be the thing that's going to kill me. So yeah, especially those that are in the trade and do this stuff daily, you really want to keep an eye on the PPE and wear the correct safety equipment so that you don't put yourself in an early grave. But obviously after I did my orbital sanding of the prime sections, you've seen me get a 500 grit softback sanding sponge. These are the Norton ones. I find them pretty good quality. They seem to last for a fair while, and they do a good job at knocking out all the orange peel. So they're not just like some of the other soft pads that you might find on the market that will just run over the top of the orange peel, and then when you go to spray it, you can actually see that orange peel coming through to your final finish. So that's one thing that I do recommend, is knocking out as much as possible of the orange peel, or the texture in the finish. If you're not sure exactly what orange peel means, that's the slight ripply texture that you do get in the paintwork. So you want to knock as much of that out before you start spraying over the top of it, and that's why I'm now going over the top of the OEM paint, or the original paint, with some 600 grit, and again that's going to be knocking out that orange peel. So you do have to be careful that you don't go and cut through too much. I mean, a little cut through is not the end of the world, at the end of the day, I am going to use some wet on wet primer or non-sanding primer over this entire bumper before I do spray it. But you still don't want too many cut throughs, because that's just going to open up the door to shrink back and having other issues. So you also may have noticed that I went over most of the edges with the 500 grit before I even touched it with the 600 grit on the Orbital sander. So now you can see that most of the bumper is actually pretty right to spray. There might be a couple of very small sections on the insides that are still a little bit shiny. I'm happy that I can go over that with one of my soft pads later on. I'll pick the last of them up, and the entire thing should be nice and keyed up, nice and scratched up, so that we're going to get a really good quality adhesion, the mechanical adhesion that we get from sanding. So obviously my next step was to blow it right down, give it a good clean down so that I can identify all of the stone chips and the damage. That's one thing that I do recommend whenever you're preparing a bumper cover. Fix all the damage. I get some people, more so on the Instagram page, and they're just, I don't know if they're just trying to give me a headache that I don't need, but they're like, oh man, are you scared to blend, you know? And I'm like, well, no, I'm not scared to blend. I just know how to color match, and I don't like painting over stone chips, you know what I mean? So yeah, when possible, I will always fix a stone chip rather than just doing a nasty touch up and then clearing over it. Especially on a bumper cover, because the other side of it is, like, if you're spraying a bumper, they usually are out from factory. Like, the color is usually, I'd say, 85% matte. Now, if I can't get 85% and or better myself, I think I've got a problem, and I'm not a very good color matcher. So that's why I always look, bumpers, especially the older ones, this isn't even that old of a car. Sometimes you get them and they're just heaps worse than this, so you really just do a quick tidy up and you just smash them wet on wet down, and you just smash them clear down to do your best to fill up all the smaller ones. So as I say, this actually wasn't even one of the worst I've seen, but I still do my best to fill them all up. And as it turns out, this bumper actually ended up looking near on as good as a new bumper when it went out. So as I say, my methods are sound. They have been refined over 19 years. I do know what I'm doing, so I'm not just some talking head just gas bagging on about something that I don't even know what I'm on about. I do know what I'm on about, so follow these steps and there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to get the exact same results. Now, if you are watching from home and you are one of those DIY guys, you might look at this and say, wow, that looks like a pretty big job just to spray some stone chips on my front bumper cover. And you could be possibly right. So you might even be thinking, you know what, I'm probably best off doing a touch up on it. You know, if you didn't actually have any damage and it is just the stone chips, you probably are best off just doing some touch ups. You know, get some touch up paint, touch them up, live with it until, let's just say, you do actually get some damage on it. When you do get some damage on it, you still might even be best off just leaving the bumper on the car. You could end up making more work for yourself than it's even worse. You've got to decide what your car is worth for you. You know, if you want to do it yourself, or if you are better off just say spending $500 or $600, taking it to the body shop, getting the professionals to do it. But if you still do decide that you want to do it at home and you want to leave the bumper on, I've actually got lots of other videos, so lots of other spot repair videos where I do go in depth and into detail of how to do a similar repair to this without actually taking the bumper off the car. So yes, as I say, in many instances you may actually be best off just leaving the bumper on the car and doing a bit of a spot repair. So just take note of the way that I am sanding some of this filler out. I'm being extremely careful not to do too much sanding. So not to do too much sanding with the Orbital sander on all the edges and the sharp corners, because you will cut through really quickly. They don't put a great deal of paint on original panels these days from factory. But look, that's it. That's the bar prepped. Now, I actually did this video as a request from a viewer. I did another video and yeah, there was a request in the comment section, hey man, do a video on how to prepare a bumper bar. Now, obviously this video here has been heavily edited, so I did edit most of it down. Look, there's probably 45 minutes, I'd say, from start to finish, 45 minutes worth of work on that bumper cover. So I edited that down to a 10-minute clip. So hopefully you did enjoy watching the video. Hopefully you learned something out of it. And as I said, there's the bumper once it's all finished off. You'd be hard pressed to find any imperfections in that. Well, I mean, there might be a couple of nibs in it. We'll nib them out. But as far as damage goes, even stone chips, even shrink back or any of that kind of stuff, it's pretty much non-existent. So Gunman's message of today is take pride in each stage of everything that you do. So take pride in your prep work, your polishing, absolutely everything, your color matching, and everything will just be a lot easier. Your life will be a lot easier. There's a lot more to this trade than glossy Instagram pics and brand new spray guns. It's hard work and dedication, but I find it quite rewarding, and I personally do actually enjoy every aspect of the trade. Rightio gunners, until next time, get out there and paint some shit. Gunman out.